It's so hard for me to do this. Thank you.
The motion on the floor is to move to reappoint both Vivian Dong and Mike Miller. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments before we take a roll call vote? Councilmember Hurst.
I would move to amend the motion.
Yeah. Second.
And let me first say what I was saying. I appreciate your.
I'm all saying. I feel like I know what he's about to say, so I'm just seconding it right away.
Okay, so I move to amend the motion so that the council decline Vivian Dong's request for reappointment to the Public Facilities District Board.
Second.
I'd like to speak to that.
Can you kind of clarify that motion so I make sure that...
Yeah, the motion is to not reappoint Vivian Dong.
So would the motion be to appoint Mike Miller and not appoint Vivian Dong?
Yes. So let me clarify that. Yeah, I actually would rather it be separate. So I think right now I move to amend the...
Point in order.
Yeah.
How about we vote on the motion that is on the table
There's a
right
motion
now?
on the floor already.
Right, and I'm amending it.
And
I'm amending it so that the motion reads to not reappoint Vivian Dong and to appoint Mike Miller to the Public Facilities District.
could I ask the attorney to weigh in on that?
It's not a model of clarity. The way I understand the amendment is the original motion was to not appoint either Vivian.
No, that one failed for lack of a second.
Apologize.
The
To reappoint both of them. That amendment has now changed that original motion to not reappointing Vivian Dong.
Correct.
Therefore, the new motion as amended is to not appoint Vivian Dong and appoint Mike Miller.
Correct.
I have a question. Is there a way we could just...
Can you wait till I get this down and then I'll call on you?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So not appoint Vivian Dong. Okay, Councilmember Binda.
Can we just do it one by one? Because what if one person agrees with one but doesn't agree with the other part, and then I think we just do whether we want to reappoint Vivian Dong and then whether we want to reappoint Mike Miller. Because I think if you agree with half of it, then you don't agree with half of it, you can still vote it down. I think that makes it simple.
That's actually correct. When you're appointing volunteers, for example, or board members or commission members, you usually don't collectively put them in groups or groups of more than one because you're going to vote differently on different people. So what you have now is a main motion and an amendment to that motion. So your choices are either to have the amendment withdrawn and the main withdrawn, and I know Councilmember Smith, you don't agree with that, but that, in my opinion, is an option, or you can vote on the motion and the amendment.
As the maker of the amendment, Councilmember Hurst, what would you
Well,
like to do?
we're faced with a motion that did combine the two. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is how do we separate those two? And that's what I was trying to accomplish.
So as I understand this motion, if it gets whittled down, this would be a motion to reappoint Mike Miller.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
the effect of the amendment and the motion, that's the bottom line effect.
I disagree. The amendment was to not reappoint Vivian Dong. So you're not remaining silent on Vivian Dong with the amendment. If you vote on the amendment and it passes, then she's not reappointed. And if you vote on the main motion as amended and you vote to approve Mike Miller, he's reinstated and she is not. The amendment doesn't say we're going to ignore Vivian Dong. We'll work on that later. It says she will not be reappointed.
Correct. That's the intent. So can I speak to that just quickly?
Yes, you can.
Now that's been clarified? So I think this is not an issue, a question of freedom of speech. This is a question of, are we going to support the 4 members of the Lynnwood Public Facility District boards that requested that we not reappoint Vivian Dong? And that is the question that we were given a letter from our state representatives.
Point of order.
Effect.
Point of order. He's not really speaking on the amendment. He's now arguing the original motion. So
There is an amendment on the floor, so you need to vote on the amendment, and then the main motion as amended.
I am speaking to that amendment.
Is speaking to not appointing Vivian Dong.
Both items are related to not reappointing. Both the board members of the Lynnwood Public Facilities asked us not to reappoint, and then the letter from the state legislature asked us not to reappoint. It is germane. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Sutton, was your hand raised?
I don't want to sound negative here, but I'm going to probably rustle some feathers. I'm sitting here along with all of you good people for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get to this point. And where we're at, we haven't really done much of anything tonight. We've gone back and forth, back and forth. I ran a prison in terms of Monroe Prison, where I did ESL training for the inmates there. And I would always think that they didn't think that I would be there and do what I did. And what I did was, I know they didn't like each other. That's fine. But it's time to give it up. It's time to give it up. As far as I'm concerned, I am going to say I'm going to abstain as well. Because this is not a fair fight. It's not meant to be a fight, but that's what it's turning out to be. And I don't appreciate the time that all of us have sat here and tried to be analytical when we have not even touched this whole thing. This is not about you or I or representatives. This is about people. And we need to come together, recognize our faults, and discuss them and move on. Because trying to put a Band-Aid over something that's not going to work anymore. Thank you.
Council President Sessions.
Can I, just for logistics, hear from the city attorney of what it means for the council vote if 2 or more of our council members are abstaining?
You have 5 eligible to vote who can still vote, so you can make a decision on the motion, the amendment, with 5 council members.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the motion as it currently, the amendment as it relates to the motion is move to appoint both Vivian and Mike, and the amendment is not appoint Vivian Dong. Claire?
That's correct.
All right, roll call vote.
Hold.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I would encourage the council to vote against the amendment, and then let's move on to the main motion. It's just gotten to be so much garbage here. So vote no on the amendment.
Voting on the amendment as I read just a moment ago. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Binda?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
No.
Council President Sessions?
No.
Councilmember Sutton?
Abstain.
Council Vice President Altamirano Crosby?
Abstain.
Councilmember Decker?
No on the amendment.
Councilmember Hurst?
Yes.
I have 2 yes, 3 no, and 2 abstain.
So the
So
amendment
the noes
fails.
have it.
Excuse me?
So the noes have it, correct?
Yes. So takes us back to the original motion, move to reappoint both Vivian Dong and Mike Miller to the PFD. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Hurst.
No.
Councilmember Binda.
Is there a skip? I'm just playing. I know.
What's your vote?
No.
Councilmember Sutton.
No.
Councilmember Decker.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Council Vice President Altamirano Crosby.
Abstain?
And Council President Sessions.
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails.
How would council like to proceed?
We've already discussed this. Now it's time for us to go to our next item.
Okay, it's been discussed, so we're not reappointing either party, either position, and so I believe the next step would be to go out for applications.
That is what your resolution requires, yes.
Yes, so I'll make that happen. While the conversation was happening, I was able to connect with Attorney Marshall and Public Works Director Bill Franz, and we have opted to move the executive session